On the 13th of November, we celebrate St. Frances Xavier Cabrini, Virgin. She lived in the year 1850 to 1917. St. Frances Xavier Cabrini's feast is celebrated in November 13th. Mother Cabrini, as she's commonly called, spent her whole life traveling. She hardly ever stopped, and travel was a lot harder in her days than in ours. There wasn't much in Mother Cabrini's early life to point to such a busy grown-up life. She was born in Italy and had 10 brothers and sisters. Her parents were farmers, and their farmland wasn't too far from a river called Po. Little Frances could look down into the valley and watch the river make its way to the sea. When Frances was 20 years old, she left the farm and started working as a teacher. During this time, Frances grew in faith and maturity. She took religious vows as a sister, worked hard to serve a struggling orphanage, and decided to start her own religious order. By the late 1880s, Mother Cabrini became interested in a new problem. Hundreds of thousands of Italians moved to America, seeking a way out of poverty and their new land. Very few of these immigrants were successful right away. Most live in worse poverty than they'd endured back in Italy. They lived in a crowded and dirty apartments, lived on scraps, and were unable to find work. Sad stories traveled back to the home country, right to Mother Cabrini. So Mother Cabrini sent out on a long trip to America. Over the next 37 years, Mother Cabrini was constantly on the move, starting schools, orphanages, and hospitals for Italian immigrants and others in need. In the few first years, she traveled between New York, Nicaragua, and New Orleans. After having a dream in which she saw Mary tending to the sick lying in hospital beds, Mother Cabrini started Columbus Hospital in New York. After she founded the hospital, Mother Cabrini made trips back to Italy to organize more nuns for work in America. Between these trips, she and some sisters headed south to Argentina. The sisters went by way of Panama and then Lima, Peru. They made the journey by boat, train, mule, and on foot. Back in the United States, Mother Cabrini traveled constantly, taking her sisters to Chicago, Seattle, and Denver. It was in Chicago that Mother Cabrini, at the age of 67, passed away. She'd begun her work with just a handful of sisters. By the time she died, 50 houses of sisters were teaching, caring for orphans, and running hospitals. Her order had grown to almost 1,000 sisters in all. Mother Cabrini was obviously a very holy woman, and the church recognized her holiness by canonizing her in the year 1946 as the first American citizen to become a saint. Frances has 2 miracles attributed to her. She restored sight to a blind child who was believed to have been blinded by excess silver nitrate, and she healed a terminally ill member of her congregation. St. Frances Cabrini was beatified on November 13, 1938 by Pope Pius XI and canonized by Pope Pius XII on July 7, 1946, making her the first United States citizen to be canonized. Her feast day is celebrated on November 13th, and she's the patron saint of immigrants and hospital administrators.